Welcome to Party Girl Interrupted. This is the podcast about nightlife, identity, and the journey from party to purpose. So by the time I was 23, I was running the door of one of the hottest clubs in New York, basically deciding who got in, who didn't, where people sat, where they ended up. From the outside, nightlife looks really glamorous, right? It looks like you're just partying. But when you're inside of it, it's actually a system. So this episode is going to be like Nightlife 101. Nightlife isn't random. It's actually very curated. Like every single person in that room is placed there on purpose. And the whole night was built around that. One of my first weeks working, I remember a promoter showed up with these really cute fashion schoolgirls. Like they were in their Tory Burch flats, in their Forever 21 dresses, with their little bumpets. And of course, I walked them into the club. I thought they were really, really cute. When I walked back up to the podium, the doorman was like, next time, say no, because they're not the right look. And I remember thinking that was so crazy because that became such a normalized thing, saying things like wrong look, wrong energy, too short. But what it really meant was that they didn't fit the look, that they didn't elevate the table, that they didn't add to the room. And promoters were also being evaluated because I was the one that had to write the promoter recaps. And it wasn't just like, who did you bring? It was, what kind of people did you bring? How did they carry themselves? What did they look like? Did they stay? Did they spend? We were tracking everything. Birthdays, favorite drinks, where they like to sit, who their favorite DJ is. Like I knew people's wives' names and their girlfriends' names, what kind of girls they liked. It was very, very precise. So yeah, it looked like a party, but it was actually a system. And so much of it was about optics, like how things looked, who was seen, where people were placed. And the biggest driver of all of that was bottle service. Bottle service didn't even always exist. It started as convenience, like a way to skip the line. And that turned into a whole status symbol. The markup is actually insane. A bottle of vodka in the store is $50, but suddenly in the club, it's $1,000 and nobody questions it because you're not buying alcohol. You're actually buying visibility. Tables equal status. And then there were the people that took that to a completely different level. We called them whales. They're the big spenders, the one who completely changed the energy of the room. I remember one night, this guy, very well known, came in with his full entourage. And immediately you can feel the energy shift. People start pulling out their phones. Everybody's watching. Sparklers, bottle trains, waitresses. And the number on the bill just keeps going up. 20K, 30K, 50K. Maybe this is the night he hit six figures. And the craziest part, no one reacted. Not him, not the staff, not me. It just felt normal. Years later, he ends up in the headlines tied to a massive fraud case, which looking back makes complete sense. I can't tell you how many nights I was in the office on the phone with Amex or banks or maybe even Daddy because a credit card got declined or maxed out. That's how it works. You don't even notice how extreme it is when you're inside it. There was also this other thing that kind of ran the whole scene. We used to call it the bigger, better deal. It was exactly what it sounds like. Like no matter how good your table was, how much you were spending, how fun the night actually was, somebody would always be like, let's go to One Oak. You know, Drake is at Marquee. There's a better table at Avenue. And people would just leave mid-drink, mid-conversation, going outside, getting cabs, going to the next spot. Because in nightlife, the night was never where you were. It was always somewhere else. You could spend the entire night chasing that feeling and still wake up feeling like you missed something the next day. That was the bigger, better deal. And I was really, really good at it. Like I was thriving in that environment. One very busy Saturday night, I remember I was at the podium running tables, and one moment I realized that there was a woman watching me. And so I called her over to assist her, and she goes, "How old are you?" And I remember being like, "I'm 23. Why?" She goes, "I'm a litigator and I've been watching you all night and you are a shark." And I remember taking that as a compliment because at the time that felt good. And then fast forward to a moment where one night I was pre-shift walking the floor and saw that somebody had knocked over a candle and lit like a napkin on fire at the table. For a second, I just stood there thinking, would it really be that bad if this place burned down? Which is kind of insane, right? But I just think I didn't know how to stop anymore. And I didn't realize it at the time, but that was the beginning of it shifting for me. Because at some point I realized it was never really about the party. It was about who you were inside of it and what you were left with when it was over. And that's the part nobody talks about. When the party's over, when the music stops, you go home, wash your makeup off, get into bed, and you're just left alone with your thoughts. You have to ask yourself, who am I? So I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of Nightlife 101 behind the scenes look and just start to realize that like how excessive nightlife was. Thanks so much for listening to Party Girl Interrupted. If this resonated with you, follow the podcast and share it with someone who's also figuring out what comes out after the party. If you want more stories, updates, behind the scenes, everything is linked in the show notes. I'll see you guys next week. This is Party Girl Interrupted.